All right. Oh, shoot. All right. Welcome to another broadcast. So glad that you guys are here. Another live broadcast. Let's go ahead. Let's hit it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Right away. We were with you when the world slowed down. Healing herbs when hope ran out. From our natural medicine cabinet to your door. Loving the roots, that's what we're here for. Yeah. It's not just orders, it's hearts we serve. We pour our love in every herb. When you need a little light to see, you can always lean on somebody. Protect your peace, let your spirit flow. Stop the cycle, let the sickness go. We love to teach what we know and grow. You're part of the forest that helps samba tree to grow. Help samba tree to grow. Healing begins right here at home. It's okay to take time for your soul. When family was in need, we were there. Still here now, still showing care. Yeah, you're part of me, I'm part of you. This forest grows and all we do. Family first, that's the truth.
Hey. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you guys, and welcome to another live broadcast. So hope you guys have a wonderful day so far, or depending on where you are in the country or in the world, your day is probably about over with. But hey, we're still here. We made it, right? Another day, and so glad to be here. Well, here I am in sunny Arizona, which is sunny again after a string of days where it was actually cloudy. But I'm gonna tell you what, living in a climate like out here in Arizona is actually quite welcoming, especially the fact that we were getting a lot of rain too. And I'm looking at temperatures right now, 76 degrees. Wonderful, beautiful out here, and so glad that you guys could join me today for our wonderful discussion. All right, and man, I tell you, I have been really diving in and getting to take some time to, like I said, focusing on other things, but also taking some time to kind of focus on myself too. A lot of times you could just give, in so many different directions, but you don't take the time to actually focus on yourself. And that's what I've been doing here. And so we're going to actually talk about some of that today. And, as always, big shout out, of course, everybody in the chat. So glad to see you guys here, and everybody else that will be joining us. All right, so we're gonna get into. So I'll just mention real quick. Yes, Samba Tree is having a very big sale right now. Make sure you check it out. Up to 30% off. So yeah, I mean, you better get in on that one. And really appreciate our Samba Tree family there. If you didn't see the video that we did recently, my wife and I did, please take a look at that. We were just try to, as completely open as transparent as possible, just talking about the ups and downs and challenges, but also the breakthroughs as well of having a business that is going up, and thanks to many of you for being a part of that. Every tree needs its own ecosystem. When you go into a forest, you're never going to see a tree just standing by itself. That's not a forest. Is made up of various trees and plants and birds and animals and all of that, right? And so when we say Samba Tree, that's not just a standalone thing. we are supported by an entire ecosystem of other plants and people, all of that. So that's why we say we really appreciate you guys so much. And thank you again for all your patronage and all of that over there at sambatree.com. So make sure you check that out. All right. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I'm telling you, this is going to go really, it's going to be very interesting, and it is going to challenge. It's going to challenge you. It's going to be something. It's going to be something because, and I think you're going to be hearing me talk like this a lot more too. We're continuing to follow our trajectory where on this particular platform, where yes, we talk about some of the issues or the problems that are out there. It's going to be brief. All right. So if you can hold your breath through that part, but we have to bring this up. But we're also going to talk about the solutions, and boy, oh boy, the solutions I have for you today. That's where I said it's going to be something that's going to be, I think, going to be very challenging in a good way, not in a bad way, but certainly in a good way for sure. And so I hope you stick around for the whole thing there. So anyway, we're going to try to get through this really quick. And yeah. Oh, the other thing I want to mention too, the seminar we just had, what was it? The Breaking the Chains, Journey Beyond Belief, that is out officially now, so if you want to purchase that entire seminar, you can. We're doing a special right now where if you purchase that seminar, in addition to getting the seminar, you also get a copy of 172 pages of my slides that I use both in the class and in other teachings that I've done in the past. 172 slides you get with that. That's a lot. And all of them are sourced and everything. So it's not like I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff up there. So for those of you who are really into research, this is going to be an interesting package for you. We got like 24 hours left on this special deal right now. So you make sure you check that out over on sambatree.com, and you get a copy of the song that was inspired by that seminar. So you get a copy of that as well. So another 24 hours to go for that special deal. So make sure you check that out over on our site. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So let me bring up to you, let's see, this news story here. Like I said, again, we're going to just kind of get through this quick, y'all, but we do have to mention some of these things. But like I said, again, it's tied to solutions. All right. That's what we're about here. And I'm sure. So I'm sure by now, many of you have already seen or heard about this particular story here. Woman killed outside Dallas PetSmart after argument over not saying thank you. And so we'll just read it real quick here for those who are not familiar with it. An arrest affidavit for a shooting outside a PetSmart store in Dallas on Tuesday reveals the situation started when the victim opened the door for the suspect, and the suspect didn't thank her, according to witness. According to Dallas police, the shooting happened around 1 p.m. in West Wheatland in the southeast Oak Cliff area of Dallas. The victim is identified as 41-year-old Cecilia Simpson, was shot multiple times. She was taken to the hospital where she died. Okay, just pause for that. Because this woman did not say thank you, she was killed. She was taken out of this life. Now, the reason why I cover these stories here is because, number one, what has happened is, and we're gonna get into this, it's almost been, a lot of people have become tone deaf to a lot of these stories that literally happen all the time. And remember, I told you, I said, y'all, listen, I said, I'm just going to keep it 100% with you. It is going to get worse based on what we now know as far as when we start looking deeper at some of these root causes. It just is. Okay. You're going to see more and more stories like this happen. And I'm just saying, like I said, again, I'm not trying to be, just negative just because of that. I'm saying that because when we look at what's going on in the home, because like I said, you can't build a community unless it starts in the home. If your community under your roof isn't together, you can't expect a bunch of people coming out of crazy situations coming together and then all of a sudden they're going to form into a Voltron. It's not going to, it doesn't work that way. Okay, it's not going to work. You're just going to bring in more confusion, and you're increasing the amount of activities like what you saw, like what you just saw. Okay, that's just one example, but I got two more here that you probably didn't hear about, but we're going to mention them here. Okay, here's another story here. This happened in Anderson, South Carolina, and these are all recent. I tell you, October has been a very bloody month when it comes to, when it comes to Black Americans. It really has been. The shootings that took place at the HBCUs. We did a video on that. There was about 3 different HBCUs at the homecoming. People dying at these homecomings, getting shot and killed over dumb stuff. All right. But anyway, here's another one here. 5 shot, 2 killed at a fight in Anderson, South Carolina bar. 5 people were shot and 2 died early Sunday morning in Anderson, South Carolina. They said they got a call just after 3:15 a.m. for a shooting at 208 West Franklin in Anderson. Responders found multiple victims with gunshot wounds. 2 people who were treated on the scene died from their injuries. And they said the coroner's office said the victims were at the Truth Bar and Grill when a fight started, and that's when shots were fired. And they said Calvin Chester Jr. was shot in the head, and Roy McDaniel was shot in the chest. Both died from their injuries, and both of their deaths are being ruled homicides. 3 people were treated for their injuries at ANMED, according to first responders. The Anderson County Coroner's Office and Anderson City Police Departments are investigating. So you had all of these people, basically, their lives have been changed forever and not in a good way. This is at a bar. So whatever they were talking about or debating, they believe that it warranted them to pull out a gun and start killing folks. I wish I could say that was it and we're done, but unfortunately, I do have to share one more story. Mass shooting on St. Helena Island, at least 20 injured, including 4 dead. All right, and this is in St. Helena Island, South Carolina. At least 20 people were injured following a mass shooting at a restaurant on St. Helena Island in South Carolina, Low Country. 4 were taken to the hospital in critical condition, and another 4 victims were pronounced dead at the scene. Do I have let me see if this will let me play the victim. Wow. Play the video. Let me see.
Right now, we do want to take a live look outside, checking out Willie's Bar and Grill on St. Helena Island. That's where that mass shooting happened. But right now, there is a vigil growing in honor of the victims who were either killed or injured. You can see that they do have candles lit. They're also going to have live music out there tonight. Organizers say everyone is invited to come out, attend, and pay their respects and reflect on the tragedy.
Okay, this isn't exactly the video I want to play, but it's actually a Black-owned bar. I want you to show that. But I think I do have the story correct, because this has been happening a lot. So I believe it was this one here. This guy, the guy who's the owner, I believe he said he actually shut down his bar and grill for a time period because he was trying to avoid something like this happening. Apparently there was this angst or whatever it is that he has been detecting amongst other Black Americans in that area. He felt enough to, you know what, I need to shut this bar and grill down. And I guess for whatever reason, he felt like, you know what, everything's all good. I'm going to open it back up. And this happens. 20 people shot. And how many they said that were killed? Let me pull that back up. Four people gone. And, and then there's the usual response, our thoughts and prayers. And, these are good people, they always lit up the room when they came in and all of this other stuff. And, at a certain point, we should be getting tired of hearing these things, right? Because everyone dying are people that lit up the room, but yet it's people who are the ones that are killing these lights, so to speak. It's not the Klan, it's not the police, it's other black folks that are doing this. And so, well, like I said earlier, this, y'all, and like I said, I just cut to the chase. At this juncture, it's going to continue. And yes, it is going to get worse unless certain things are changed, unless certain things are altered. Okay. And that's what we're here for. We're going to talk about the problems, which we did, but we're also going to look at the solutions. And that's where we're into right now. So, so let's start off with this. Let's start off with this, me asking you this question. And as you saw on the thumbnail, I pretty much asked the question, does black culture have a component of peace? Let me ask that again, because I want you to really think about this for a second, okay? And we're going to explore that question. And then we're going to look in, we're going to start going, put your mining hats on, because we're going to start digging in and all of that, okay? Does black culture have a component of peace? Now, what I mean by that is this, is that, let me give you an example. Let me give you some examples, okay? Now, when I say peace, I'm talking within our culture. Are there certain practices? Are there certain traditions that black American culture has that foster peace, or it makes sure that, okay, I don't care what you're doing, but we all got to shut our mouths and we got to just absorb the moment. We got to be quiet here. And I'm not talking about a moment of silence when someone's been shot. I'm talking where this is a built-in component of the culture. All right. So let me give you some examples. And I'm sure some of you are a little bit ahead of me, and let's take a look at this. Usually, and the example I'm looking at is when you start looking at Eastern cultures. Now, for those of you who, you have a very strong religious background, let me make something absolutely clear. I should play a video that someone sent to me that was quite funny. In fact, I will play that because I think that's very appropriate for this. It's funny, but I hope you really take the meaning of of the video itself. Let me get this video out here. Let me see. Here it is. I thought this was very funny, but it just very much speaks to what I was getting ready to tell you here. Hold on for a second. Video has no sound. Oh man, hold on. Oh, they took the sound out? Why they take the sound out? Okay. Anyway, wonk wonk. They took the sound out. But anyway, this guy is hold on. Sorry, y'all. Something going on here. Maybe I had to be logged in or something. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Let me see if I can get that on. Oh, okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I want you to listen to it, okay? I'm not going to be able to, because I got to log in and all of that. I don't know if I can log in. Hold on for a second. Let me see if he'll let me log in here. Sorry about this, y'all. I thought I could. Let's see. 7. Sorry about this, y'all. Okay, is logging in. Oh, here we go.
I don't understand.
It's
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, they want me to log in. All right, here we go. So take a look at this. I thought this was funny.
demonic.
But it's the brain that God.
It's demonic. That's some demons. That's not God. It's
But
demonic.
if it's
It's
a
the-
God-given brain, then
It's demonic. It's still demonic. That's the
but
demons.
it's just thinking for yourself. It
It's
ain't,
the demons. Gotta be demonic.
I just don't understand
Gotta
why.
be demonic, yeah. Gotta be them demons.
But it can't
Demonic
all-
is demonic.
Okay.
It's demonic.
Okay.
It's demonic.
All right. So I've been thinking for myself.
That's demonic.
I don't understand.
It's demonic.
But it's the brain that God.
It's demonic. That's some demons. That's not God. It's
But
demonic.
if it's
It's
a
the-
God-given brain, then
It's demonic. It's
Okay, so you get the point there. So what we're getting into, the reason why I wanted to play that is because what I'm going to be, this example I'm pointing to, unfortunately, you do have numbers of people who come out of that type of background. I know because I was one of them. You typically pivot to that kind of stuff here, but no, it's not at all. So the example I wanted to go to is, let's take a look at Eastern cultures, right? When you look at various Eastern cultures, do they have their own problems and stuff like that? Yes. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. But in their culture, they do have components where peace is a requirement. It's demanded. Okay. I'm just going to run through some examples very quickly here. Okay. So in India, they have, they get into Zen meditation. In China, they have Wu Wei. I think it's called Wu Wei. And that means effortless action, aligning with natural flow and reducing internal and external conflict. Now, these are meditative and contemplative practices, right? In India, they also have a meditation that they do regarding their breath, like it's like you doing these breathing exercises, but you're also uttering prayers and stuff like that, right? Now, that's in the meditative space. Okay. Now, let's go back to Japan. Now we're going to look at reverence for nature. Okay. These are things that I'm going through right now. These are established in the culture itself. Am I saying every participant, every person within these cultures do these practices? No, but these cultures are known for this. In fact, these are practices that go back like thousands of years. Okay. Reverence for nature. In Japan, they have, the Shinto, they have shrines that are often built in forests or near rivers. There's a respect for spiritual presence in nature. And what it does, it reinforces harmony with the environment. In China, they have Feng Shui. I first learned about this in California. And it's basically the way a building is structured. And so what they mean is that the energy flow, if you will, it has to be a door in the front that where I should be able to stand at the front door and be able to look clean through the back door, right? And be able to see the back door going out, because they're saying the flow of energy, it can't be hindered, right? And I mentioned I learned this in California because I know when my wife, when she was working for a builder, they literally, some builders out there at that time, they were actually reconfiguring homes to make sure that it aligned with Feng Shui. And so again, this is a culture to keep things peaceful. That's their belief, right? And in Tibet or Thailand, they say many of the temples maintain animal sanctuaries and sacred forests, seeing all beings as part of a peaceful continuum. All right. Now, and then let's move on to daily rituals of stillness and respect. Let's see, in Japan and China, they have a tea ceremony. They're really big when it comes to tea. Okay, it's their time of, tea. But see, when you look at these, if you've ever seen this on YouTube, I mean, these folks who are really into it, they are really into it. It ain't just like, oh, I'm going to go make me some tea, pull it out of my cabinet, put it in, have your water boiling and all of that. And then you go sit down somewhere. No, it's like a whole kind of ritual thing that people in these cultures do. Not all people. Okay. I'm not saying all of them, but there are numbers who do, and it's baked into their into their culture. Let's see, where is it? They said the slow, intentional preparation of tea becomes a moving meditation of presence and simplicity. And then when you go to Sri Lanka or in Thailand, they have daily recitations focus the mind on compassion, patience, and nonviolence. And then let's see, in multiple Eastern cultures, they have like silent retreats and fasting periods. They say observed in multiple traditions to purify the mind and cultivate peace through withdrawal from sensory overload. So in other words, they have these retreats where they don't say anything. They're just completely quiet. Can you imagine that? You going on a retreat, is no special speakers out there. It ain't the posters that got the person like, holding the Bible and he pointing and with special guest singer and all of this. No, it's, they may put a palm tree up there and say, yep, we're going to meet at the palm tree for the next 3 days or whatever. And we just going to chill. We ain't going to say no. We're going to meditate and drink some tea or whatever. And that's it. It's in the culture. Right. And then you have the ancestral veneration and intergenerational peace. In China, they have, let's see. Yeah, you've seen in China, for example, where they actually take time and they give honor, pay homage to their ancestors. Like they'll go to the grave or whatever, and they'll just light the incense and stuff like that. And it's a moment of prayer. It's a moment of being quiet. You see the same thing in Vietnam, in Korea, where they have ancestor days, where again, they practice these same things where they're quiet and they're reflecting upon the ancestors of the past. Japan, they have what's called the Obon Festival, where they have community gatherings and offerings and all that kind of stuff. We talked about, no, we didn't. There's a lot here. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more here. In Japan, we get into the architectural and environmental design for serenity. Japan, they have their Zen gardens. They literally have gardens that are designed for you to reflect, to be quiet, and to be still, right? In India, they have the ashrams and temples. They say they were built away from the city centers using geometry and sound to harmonize energy. Chinese gardens, the same thing. When you see Chinese, they make it a point. We've noticed out here too in Arizona, these homes that where Asians live, East Asians, East, whatever, right? Their backyards a lot of times is full of herbs, full of fruit trees and all of that. It's just like a standard. They just, hey, if we're gonna live here, we got to make sure that our backyard reflects it's a place of peace and reflection. Then you look at the average American, what we put back there, swimming pool and a grill and all that. It's nothing wrong with that, but peace. You understand what I'm saying? And then you have, then they have this another thing too. I do want to mention here, community and social harmony practices. This is Japan. They said they have these what's called village consensus systems, where decisions are made collectively to preserve unity. In Vinaya, I guess that's what it is. This is with the Buddhists. They said emphasizes nonviolence, restraint of speech, and mindfulness in community life. And in Tibet, they have nonviolent conflict resolutions. This is where the elders and the monks oftentimes mediate disputes rather than state authorities. And then there's some other things. Then you can see it in their art, when you look at haiku and classical music, calligraphy, and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a whole lot I can go through on that. So these are just, am I suggesting that we have to now become, start embracing being East Indian or some, people from the East? No. What I am encouraging you is to be who you are. However, the culture that you embrace or the culture that you create, there has to be a component of peace in it. You can take from some of this that I just went through with you, or you can create your own stuff. When we look at Black American culture, for example, when you ask it, this is why we've been having those ongoing conversations about what is exactly Black culture. And when you're online, especially, and you ask that question, in most cases, the responses are, first thing that comes to mind is dance, is swag, we like having fun and all of that. All of those things are fine. I am not talking down on any of that stuff. All of those things are wonderful. And yes, I proudly embrace those things. But do we have a component within our culture where we're actually, we ain't saying nothing. It's quiet. Now you may say, well, peace for me is going to a concert. Well, peace for me is sometime, going to the theater or watching my favorite show or whatever. Okay, that may put you in there's a difference between distraction and peace. Let me say that again. There is a difference between distraction and peace. And what we have been doing, unfortunately, is that we have been misinterpreting distraction as peace. Let me give you an example. There's a new Predator movie coming out, and guess who's trying to be there? Me, right? Of course, because I like the Predator series, right? But I'm not going there because, this is just my break. It's just peaceful. It's Predator. The title itself, the title alone should give it away that this is not a peaceful situation here, okay? This is, if I'm going to see Predator, I'm going to be supercharged. And I'm telling you, up until like a month ago, I have been at nighttime, where I should be going to bed, I'm looking at these high action movies and all of that, and I'm getting all in it. I'm diving in that. And then after I finish watching, the movie, and I'm like, oh, time to go to bed. No, you don't go to bed on that. You don't go to bed after watching Predator. You don't do that, okay? Or some of these high action movies. No, you do not do that. Okay. But we've done that. Many of us have. And I'm not just saying, it's only Black people do this. It's other people do this as well. Okay. But I'm just throwing something out here because this is one example of how we misinterpret a distraction versus peace. That's not peaceful. Watching shows and even when you listen to a lot of our music, it's really not peaceful. Not really, even though it may be slow and like I was playing earlier. It's nice and it's slow, but does it is it peaceful? And I'm going to tell you about what peace is. We're going to dive into that, okay? So that's what we're challenging here when it comes to, does what we call Black culture, do we have a peaceful component? Well, take a look let's go back to what I was sharing with you earlier, those unfortunate news stories. Those are just a few examples of many examples. We have adopted this ideology, and I'm talking, when I say we, I'm saying there are numbers of Black folks who've adopted this ideology is, someone does a little thing to you, it ain't just, man, shut up, you need to get out my, it's not just that. Now we pulling out guns. Now we pulling out guns. You know what I'm saying? Now it's jumping to that. Now it's, okay, we're going to end your life now. And what I'm saying is this happens a lot. Now, I'm not saying you do that, but there are numbers of people who do jump to these sweeping conclusions. Well, it may not even be a gun. It may be, you know what? I ain't going to talk to you then. Well, screw you. You need to go straight to hell. It turns into some major thing. Instead of, you know what? Nah, it ain't, let's step back for a second. Maybe we need to shut up. How about we need to do that for a while? Now, for those of you who, for example, may say, well, prayer, when I think of peace, I think about times when we pray either when I'm in the church or, maybe I'm praying with a small group or whatever. But what typically happens during prayer? You're talking. In most cases, you are talking. Now, even if you're not running your mouth and talking, you're still talking up here. So when I'm talking about peace, I'm talking about everything shut off. You just shut it all off. And this is what a lot of times, and I'm saying coming out of Christendom, what the interpretation of that is, you can't, like they say, the idle mind is a devil's playground. Think about that for a second. Let's unpack that for a second. We tell people that an idle mind is the devil's playground. So if you take the time to engage in peace where no one is talking, not even you, there's no music playing. What we have taught ourselves is if you are having in an idle state, that means that the devil's going to come and he's going to mess things up. No. Peace in of itself, a lot of times, is the absence of all of distractions. And a lot of times our mouths can be the biggest distraction. You understand what I'm saying? Everything's got to be we running our mouth. It's got to involve somebody running their mouth. How many podcasts do we got out here? Everybody got a podcast now. Everybody. I do too, I guess. Everybody got one. But what about just a quiet cast? We ain't saying nothing. Just taking some time out. And we're going to talk about that, okay, and how you can do that. So I really want to challenge you on that. Okay, so let me mention this, and then I have a video that I want to play for you guys. I found to be quite interesting, and I think you guys will get a lot out of it. It's a short video that I'm going to play for you in a moment. But let me just say this to you. I think this is quite fascinating here. Because I never thought of this before. Your brain, yes, this right here, inside of here. I want you to think about it for a second. Your brain by itself, it doesn't see anything. It literally doesn't see a thing. Well, yes, it does, because you got your eyes. Oh, take the eyes away. Your brain literally doesn't see a thing. If you had a box, let's just think of a box for a second, right? And then you just literally put a brain in the box and close it up. That's your brain. How does your brain get information? You guys know. How does your brain get information? You should have learned this in school from the 5 senses, right? And what's your 5 senses? Seeing, hear, touch, smell, and taste, right? That's your 5 senses. Now, those senses, they are picked up by what? Your sensory system, right? Your nervous system. That's what is picked up. So your brain is in this box, because I want to paint you this picture here, okay? So your brain is sitting in the dark. It has no idea what's outside in the outside world. It has no idea what's going on. And so it's like, tell me what's going on. What do y'all see now? What you hear now? What's going on there now? How's that feel? How's that taste? That's what your brain is doing right now. It's doing that all the time. It can't see. Okay, walk with me on this, okay? Your brain literally can't see. It is depending on the 5 brothers, the 5 senses, brothers and sisters. And they come back and say, man, that thing tastes nasty. And then your brain is like, oh, really? Okay, let me make a note of that. And then your brain's like, okay, well, how does that smell? Man, that thing smells so good. Oh, really? Let me mark that down. Marks it down and records it. Well, how did it feel, though? Man, that thing felt rough. I'm just saying, that thing, they were saying it was supposed to be nice and silky, but I'm sorry, that thing was rough. Oh, really? Let me mark that down. And it's recording all of these things, and it's putting it in your memory. Walk with me on this, okay? That's what it's doing. So your brain is taking in all of this information based on those senses. Now, let me give you this little extra, and then we're going to continue on. I saw this demonstration just recently, and let me see. I don't have anything in front of me right now. Okay, I'll use this. Okay, so this is like a battery pack here. Okay, so, but it wasn't this. I was watching this video, and just imagine across this piece of wood she had, there was copper. There was like these little copper tubes. One was hot, the other was cold. One was hot, the other was cold, so forth and so on. And so the lady, she touched the first one, and she was like, oh, it's hot. Then she touched the next one, and she was like, oh, snap, that's cold. And then so forth and so on. And so the other lady said, okay, now what I want you to do is put your hand on it. She put her hand on it for just not even a minute. She was like, oh, snap, that thing hurt my hand. It hurt my hand. And she said, put your hand on it again. So she tried again. She was like, oh, man, that hurt. You want to know what happened? Let me tell you. Your hands, they have three places of 3 ways that it's 3 detectors here. It has a hot detector, a cold detector, and a pain detector. A hot one, cold one, and a pain. So it detects when you touch something, it detects, oh, snap, this hot. You got a special line for the hot. It goes straight to your brain and says, okay, that's hot. Then you got another line that goes up and it says, oh, that's cold. But then you got a third one that says, oh, that's painful. So you got 3 of them, 3 sensories here, right? That's going on from your hand going to your brain. Now, in this demonstration that I just gave you, the hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, what that did was it confused the brain. So the brain was confused. It was like, oh, I don't know what this is. So what did it default to? It defaulted to pain. That's what happened. It automatically said, I don't understand what this is. Let me say that again. I don't understand what this is. It still ain't getting into you. Let me say it again. I do not understand what this is. So I'm going to default to what? Pain. How many times have we defaulted to pain on things when we don't understand it? Because your brain, oftentimes, what is the mode that is in? It is in what? Self-preservation. So if you don't understand something, this is why you see so much negativity on social media. Because oftentimes people will put stuff up because they don't understand it. They get what? Sarcastic. Because you want to protect yourself. I don't want to hear that. Oh, you this. Oh, you that, or whatever. This is what your brain does. So anyway, getting back to what I'm saying here, and then we're going to get to this video. So your brain is sitting in this black box. Remember I was saying it's taking all these notes. It's taking in all of this information. And so as it's taking in all of this information, it's putting in there, that is experience. That is called your experience and what you went through. So you got the past, you got the present, and then you got the future. Okay? You got the past, you got the present, and the future. You and I, we cannot perceive what is going to happen in the future. We don't know. I don't know what's going to happen the next minute. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen next month. Any guesses that I have on what's going to happen in the next minute or the next hour or the next day is based off of what? Based off of my experience. It's based off of what I went through. That's why they said nobody knows the future. You're right. We don't know. Your future is literally being written with every breath. As you going forward, as you take one step, as you take another step, as you take another step, your future is literally being written. Our brains by nature literally wants to live in 2 different places. It wants to live either in the past or it wants to live in the future. Let me say that again. Your brain literally wants to live in 2 different places, in the past and in the future. We have to begin to train our brain to do what? To live in the present, in the here and now. And when you're not at peace, you'll never do that. And so if your brain is always looking at the past, when it's always looking at the past, it's like, okay, well, yeah, basically that's what happened. And so, because they're like that, they're always going to be like that. Well, this is such a situation. I've been through this before. I know all the heartbreak that it brought and all the pain and stuff. That's what it was back then. And this is what it's going to be in the future. Notice the skip. That's how it was back then. This is how it's going to be. That's how it was back then. This is how it's going to be. Notice the skip. But we're not focused on the future, in the present, because if you're focused on the present, you can begin to start turning the screws and doing things that you got to do so that your future can be altered or changed, so that all of a sudden your brain's like, hold on for a second. I wasn't predicting that. You're daggone right. And what's the part of your brain that is doing that? It's your amygdala. Your amygdala. Remember I talked about that's where your emotions and all that is? So your amygdala is the one that's like, oh, Lord, you remember what we did before? We went through that before. You know what happened back then? And, oh, we're going to go through that situation again. Oh, it's always going to happen. Oh, Lord, all of that. That's what your amygdala is doing. But your prefrontal cortex is like, oh, shoot, okay, well, I guess that's what's going to happen then. And it checks out. When you incorporate breathing exercises, what it does what? It strengthens your prefrontal cortex so that it can say, all right, let me bring in some order here. That's one of the main benefits of doing breathing exercises. You understand what I'm saying? Now go back to what I said earlier. An idle mind is the devil's playground. You see how crazy that sounds now? When you immerse yourself in quiet, when you immerse yourself, when you are getting right amount of oxygen in your brain and all of that, you are strengthening this prefrontal cortex so that you can now make better decisions, right? Not only that, you begin to focus on the now. That's what begins to happen. And by focusing on the now in this moment, you then begin to realize that, wait a minute, I can change the future. I can make some changes. All right. Let me move on to this right here. Let me see. Do I want to read this first? Yeah. No, actually, what I want to do is I want to play this video. I think this will be a perfect time for me to play this video. The name of the channel is called The Mindset Mentor. Very good information here. I want to go back to the beginning here. And I want you to take a listen to what this guy has to say. And then I'm going to tie it back to Black culture, right? We're going to tie it back to Black culture. And I think it's going to be quite interesting here in how we do that. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull this up. Let's take a listen to what this gentleman is saying. And I think you're going to get a lot out of it. All right, let's take a listen.
If you're like most people, if I could hear into your brain and we could hear everything that you're saying to yourself, we'd probably call it emotional abuse, right? If somebody else said it to you, it'd probably be emotional abuse. But because it's coming from your own mind, you've learned to tolerate it. And not even just learned to tolerate it, you've actually probably learned to believe it. You know, the voice that says that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you'll never be enough, you're not worthy of love. It's not truth. It's a program. And today I'm going to teach you a step-by-step, a 6-step process for how to uninstall it based on psychology. So first off, let's talk real quick about why your brain is wired for negativity in the first place. Because no matter what, if you are a living, breathing human, you have some form of negativity that is going to live inside of your brain. And that doesn't mean that you're broken. It means that you're a human. Because if you've listened to this podcast long enough, you know that your brain, its job is not to make you happy or rich or successful. Its job is to keep you safe. And in brain language, safe means familiar. That's it. It's very simple, which means that you'll keep thinking the same thoughts that you've thought 1,000 times, even if they're negative, even if they're mean, even if they're terrible. You will stay in patterns that feel terrible because they feel predictable. And predictable means safe. Your brain doesn't care about if you're anxious, happy, successful, sad, whatever it might be. It wants everything to be predictable because predictable means safe. So you'll avoid change, not because you're lazy, but because your brain equates the unknown with danger. Don't do that. That's dangerous. And this in psychology is called the negativity bias. We all have it. It is your brain's tendency to scan throughout your entire environment, everything that's happening outside of you, everything that's happening inside of you, everything that could happen in the future, and scan for threats. And then focus on what's wrong, or in most cases, what could go wrong, but isn't even actually wrong in reality. And then what it'll do a lot of times is catastrophize, which make it way worse than it actually could be, so that you stay in the same place and you stay predictable and you stay safe. So it will predict the worst things that could happen just so you stay safe. It's not a character flaw. There's nothing wrong with you. It is a survival strategy that we all have inside of our brains. You just need to learn a strategy to get you out of this, because you're a human. That's the way it's going to be. There's no outrunning it. You just learn how to work with it. And so let me give you a few of the psychological common negative thought loops that people have. Like, let's get clinical for a second so you can really understand yourself. These are straight out of cognitive behavioral therapy. They're called cognitive distortions, which means your brain is actually distorting reality. And so then what happens is, if we distort reality enough, these mental lies we actually start to believe is truth. And so let me go through them real quick. One of them, first one, is called all or nothing thinking, which is to see things in black or white. There's no middle ground between it. And what that means is, like, if I don't eat perfectly today, I've totally failed. Like, I see this all the time with people who like work out perfectly for 21 days. They screw up on the 22nd day, and then they just think they're a failure and they just completely give up. Or if you're like somebody who has a business, you're like, if this launch isn't huge, then I'm a loser and I should give up. That is all or nothing thinking. That is a cognitive distortion. Another one that's very common for people is called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is taking a situation and assuming that the worst case scenario is what's going to happen. And it happens like fast. If I mess up this presentation, I'll get fired, I'll lose everything. No, you just messed up a presentation. It's not a huge deal. If they don't text me back, they probably hate me. That's what catastrophizing means. I get bad news when I go into the doctor, I'm gonna die. That's catastrophizing. Very common for people. That's the second one. The third one is something that's called mental filtering, which is extremely common as well, which is focusing only on the negative and ignoring any of the positive, ignoring any of the good. So somebody could compliment you, and then you start thinking about, well, I can't stop thinking about that one critique. You can go and give a presentation and, they're like, that presentation was amazing. And then your boss just says one little tiny critique. You forget about the entire compliment, how great it was, how great you did. And you can't stop thinking about that one critique. Or you hit your goal and you're like, well, sure, I hit my goal, but I should have done it faster. That's mental filtering. A lot of people do that as well. The next one's called personalization, which is blaming yourself for things that aren't really even about you in the first place. If someone else is in a bad mood, I must have made them upset. The team is underperforming. Clearly, I'm a terrible leader. That's personalization, taking something that has nothing to do with you, that's not really about you, and making it all about you. The next one is called mind reading, which is believing that you know what other people are thinking without any real evidence. And so it could be like, oh, she didn't smile at me. She must think that I'm annoying in some way. Or he looked bored. He must think that I'm a joke. And so we think that we can read other people's minds. And so we make an entire story out of something that we notice within another person when they could just be having a bad day and it has nothing to do with us at all. So that's the next one. Number 6 is called fortune telling, which is predicting the future like it's already been decided. Like, people think that they can predict the future. So it's like, this is what they do. They go, well, there's no point in applying for that job because I'm not going to get the job anyways. Okay. Fortune teller. Or I'll never be able to change because I always mess things up. So I'm just going to stay the same, right? Like, you don't know that something different can't happen in the future, but you just say, oh no, this is the way it's going to work. So I'm just going to do this. You're trying to predict the future. It's not true. The next one is called should statements, which is beating yourself up for very rigid expectations. Like, I should be more successful by now. I shouldn't feel this way. What's wrong with me? Those are should statements. Another one that's very common is called labeling, which is turning a behavior into a label, like a fixed identity in some sort of way. So like, oh, I forgot to do that. I'm so stupid. Forgot, behavior, stupid, I'm stupid. That's an identity. I failed a test, I'm a total loser. Failed a test, behavior, something that happened, total loser, that's an identity. Okay, we got 2 more. The next one is called emotional reasoning, which is assuming that your feelings are facts. You take your feelings and you think that it's a fact, right? So like, I feel anxious, something must be wrong. I feel worthless, I must be worthless, which is emotional reasoning. And then the last one is called discounting the positive, which is minimizing all of your wins or your progress. Oh yeah, that doesn't count. Whatever that thing was, anyone probably could have done it because you think negatively of yourself. Yeah, they said that, but they were just being nice. Okay. Do you see how these cognitive distortions are so exhausting? Like you're taking reality and you're distorting it. That's why it's called a cognitive distortion. You're distorting it so that you see the negative in something or you make yourself feel negative. And the kicker, the hardest part about it is that the more you think these thoughts, the deeper those neural pathways become, which means that it literally means that your brain gets better at thinking negatively unless you interrupt it. And so what do we need to do? We need to figure out some sort of way for us to interrupt what's going on inside of our brain and actually make a change. And so this is the 6-step cognitive behavioral therapy based process to basically outsmart your negative thoughts. This is where the magic happens. You're going to see how to observe your thoughts, how to interrupt your thoughts, and how to rewire your thoughts using a step-by-step process. So this is the gold standard in thought change therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So step number 1, the first thing you need to do is you need to name the thought. Catch it to change it. You've got to catch the thought in order to be able to change it. When a negative thought comes in, don't fight the negative thought. What you want to do is you want to label the negative thought. You want to say it out loud, like literally say out loud, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. Okay, say it out loud to yourself. Or I'm noticing that I'm a failure. The reason why you want to do this and label it and then say it out loud is it because it creates distance between you and the thought.
Yes.
Because a lot of us identify with our thoughts and then we create them to be like absolute truth. No, you're not the thought. You are the observer of the thought. So what you're trying to do in step 1 is create distance between you and the thought. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to identify the distortion in some sort of way. That's why I gave you the list of distortions, right? My boss didn't respond to my email. I must be getting fired. What are the distortions there? It's probably catastrophizing. Okay, so I'm catastrophizing and, I must be getting fired. It's probably mind reading in some sort of way. I think that I have a crystal ball, right? So I'm identifying the distortions. He didn't respond to your email. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he just decided to take the day off. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he's got diarrhea. I don't know what it is. Try to see the other side of what it could possibly be. So what you're doing is you're looking at it, you're going, okay, well, I'm just distorting reality in some sort of way. Let me figure out how I'm distorting reality. Once you label it, you disarm the power that it has over you. Now it's a pattern that you're recognizing. It's not an actual truth in reality. More distance between you and the thought. This third step is to ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? There's actually benefit. It's called negative visualization, is to look at the absolute worst thing that could happen. Allow your mind to go crazy. What's the worst thing that could happen? And the reason why this is important is because a lot of times you'll look at it and be like, that's ridiculous. It's not even ever going to be that bad. And it makes you distance yourself from the thought even more. Okay, so that's step number 3. Step number 4 is to ask yourself, what's the best that can happen? Because if you're going to allow yourself to see the absolute worst, which is what we usually do with catastrophizing in the first place, I'm going to also make myself see the absolute best. So let me see what's the worst that could happen. Let me see what the best thing that could happen and realize it's probably not going to be either one of those. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. When you do that, it makes you feel a lot better because you're not allowing your negative thoughts just to run your mind. What you're doing is you're going, let me see all of the options. And it will help you feel a little bit better because your brain, once again, likes to predict the future. So if it can predict the worst and predict the best, it knows it's probably going to fall in between that somewhere. It's like, oh, it gives your brain a feeling that it is that is predicting, and something that's predictable feels a lot more safe. So that's step number 4. Step number 5 is to reframe the thought. Now that I've identified the thought, I've identified the distortion, I've seen the worst that could happen, I've seen the best that could happen, I want to rewrite the thought into something that is more balanced and something that's more neutral. Not something that's fake or something that's fluffy or any of that type of stuff, just more like I don't know if it's a word, more truer, right? More truer is what I'm trying to look for. So you might think like, I'm not good enough. Okay, I'm noticing the feeling that I'm not good enough. Is it true? No, it's not true. What's another way to reframe this? Okay, I'm really struggling with this right now, but because I'm struggling, that doesn't mean that I'm not capable. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And so it's not fake, it's not fluffy. It's just something more balanced and neutral than it was before.
Yeah.
Another thought could be like, oh, I always mess things up. Well, it's like, let me look at that and see if I can make it a little bit more true and not as crazy. Like, listen, I've made mistakes, but through every mistake that I've had, I've grown. And I've become better through every mistake.
Yeah.
So I don't always mess things up. Have I always messed up every single thing? No, there's things that I definitely haven't messed up. So clearly that thought is maybe another thought you could have is like, I'll never be successful. Oh, I'm screwing up at this. I'll never be successful. Okay, let me try to reframe that a little bit. Success is not instant. And I'm learning as I grow. And if I just don't give up, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to figure it out. You see what I mean? So all you're doing is you're just reframing the thought and you're just rewriting it as something that's a little bit more balanced and neutral in some sort of way. This in cognitive behavioral therapy is called cognitive restructuring. It's one of the most important things that you could do. Also one of the most evidence-based tools in all of psychology. You're literally rewiring the brain through repetition of doing this. So that's step number 5. And then step number 6 is to act from the reframe. This is the part that most people skip, but your thoughts will change if you start having the thoughts, if you start changing your thoughts over and over and over again through repetition, but thoughts also change when behavior changes. So you want not only your thoughts to change, you also want your behavior to change. You know, ask yourself, if I believed this new thought, what is one small action that I would take right now? If I believed that I'm learning to trust myself, then maybe what I'll do is I will just decide to hit publish on that post instead of holding it back. If I believe that my worth isn't tied to other people's opinions, well, then maybe I would stop replaying that conversation that I thought I showed up in so awkwardly.
Yeah.
Because behavior reinforces belief. And so if I want my beliefs to change, my thoughts need to change, but also my behaviors need to start to change as well. Every small action in a different direction tells your brain this new thought is safe and it's working. And so I want you to realize that just because you think negatively doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. You are a human. You're going to think negatively, but your negative thoughts cannot run your life. And if you become aware of them, you can change them, because you can't change something that you're not aware of. But once you see the thought, you create distance from a thought, you break it down, you no longer have to be the thought. You know, your brain might be in old default mode for a while. It takes time to change. People want things to happen right away. The way I see it is it's kind of like brushing your teeth, right? You don't just brush your teeth one time and you're like, oh, my teeth are clean forever. No, hopefully you're brushing your teeth at least every single morning and every single evening. You need to do it to stay clean. It drives me crazy. People are like, well, I thought this thought for a couple of days and it didn't work. I'm like, you brush your teeth multiple times a day. It's exactly what you need to do with trying to change your mental programming, to start to get rid of the negative thoughts. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't stop negative thoughts forever. You don't have clean teeth forever, but you don't have those negative, you don't just like get rid of those negative thoughts. You just get better at catching them before they hijack your entire day. And you also learn to make changes quicker. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video.
All right. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. And also check our sister out who's in the comments as well. Peace of Mind Counseling. She has a wonderful channel. Make sure you check her out as well. She's in the counseling and she knows a lot about this and all of that. So yeah, be sure to check out her channel as well. Just wanted to give her a shout out and thank her for her contributions as well to this channel, and really appreciate that. But a lot of things in there, and I hope you guys caught that. And you know, again, his channel is called The Mindset Mentor. And I would encourage you to check it out, you know, to check out, maybe go back and watch the video again and all of that. Now, I want to bring this, what we have heard so far, what we heard from him and what I was sharing earlier. We're going to bring this back into the context of when we were talking about the overall overarching topic of this video, which is dealing with, you know, is there a peace component within Black culture? All of this is part of that, right? So I want to share with you something that I was, today on ChatGPT, and I had a question that I wanted to ask, and usually my questions end up a page and a half of stuff. So I'm going to read to you my question or statement or whatever you want to call it, and then we're going to see what the response was to it. Okay, here we go. I said I'm taking all, because I got so many little projects. That's one of the greatest things they could do is create projects. I just love it because I could keep my conversations in groups, you know what I mean? And it's just awesome. And so anyway, so I said, I was thinking the other day about what we were talking about. I said, as long as we as Black people continue to remind ourselves that we were slaves, we will always feel this sense of not being worthy to live a life full of peace and abundance. We will always stay stuck in this belief that government intervention holds the ultimate key. And while I'm not dismissing any of the harms that were done to us in the past by this government, the truth is we still have a choice in this matrix system. We recently talked about how the brain tends to look at the past in order to paint a predetermined future. There are a great many things that we can control and change regardless of what the government may or may not do. I also want to go back briefly to when I mentioned about dwelling in the past and operating in a post-slave mindset. I am not suggesting that we completely forget the past. I guess what I'm saying is that we should learn to see it as a past event that does not determine our future. And I said another trend I'm seeing is that there are numbers of Black individuals who are so stuck in the past that they believe that they can mentally time travel backwards and reinvent themselves as people from other cultures, rulers, etc. And y'all know what I'm talking about. We're from Atlantis. We're space aliens. We're the Hebrews and all of that stuff, right? And sorry about that. Man, have a beard, man. His hair be getting in your man. It's crazy. Anyway, time travel backwards and think of ourselves as people from other cultures, rulers, etc. I said, I think there's a real danger in that because it's like we are giving ourselves false memories from the past, thinking that it can fix our present and future. I thought it was, so anyway, so I said, okay, let me see what you're going to say on this. All right, so let me read to you. I'll just bring it up on the screen then. I could have brought that other thing on the screen then, but I'll just bring this up on the screen. Okay, so this is how it responded. It says, as we discussed, the brain doesn't truly live in the present. It's constantly predicting based on memory. When collective memory like slavery, colonization, or systemic trauma becomes the dominant reference point, the brain begins constructing a permanent survival loop rather than an expansion loop. In that loop, peace, creativity, and abundance feels unsafe because the brain is still protecting against a danger that has already passed. So when we repeatedly remind ourselves of enslavement as identity, the brain can't distinguish between remembering trauma and reliving it. The emotional body responds as it is happening now. Meditation, breathing, and reframing becomes powerful tools because they interpret that neurological cycle and teach the brain to feel safe in peace. Okay, let's move on. Number 2, the post-slave mindset and the illusion of safety. There's a subtle but potent psychological reward in identifying with pain. It provides a sense of belonging and moral justification in an unjust world. But that comfort can also be a trap. It's almost like saying, if I stay in the pain, I remain connected to the story of my people. Yet true liberation means evolving beyond the wound while still honoring the story that shaped us. This is similar to how some trauma survivors unconsciously recreate conditions of their trauma because the brain equates familiarity with safety. All right, number 3. And it said on the mirage of reclaimed past. It says, you hit a nerve when you said that many of us are still trying to mentally, talking about us, you're a computer. Anyway, you said, you hit a nerve when you said that many of us are trying to mentally time travel, identifying as pharaohs, Hebrews, Moors, etc. It is not that exploring those connections is wrong. It's that sometimes this becomes escapism dressed as empowerment. It's the mind's way of saying, if I rewrite the past, I can escape the pain of the present. But the true rewrite must happen forward, not backwards. Building new realities that reflect power, peace, and innovation now. That is how we are supposed to do it. That's what I've been saying. We have to focus on the now, not back then, but the now. We're not saying forget slavery. That is not what's being said here. I am saying that you got to get beyond that mentally. Okay? We're not saying you got to get past slavery in the sense of, oh, y'all, that wasn't nothing. That is not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm suggesting. What I am saying is right now, in this moment, you listening to me, you are not that. In this moment, you are not 400 years backwards. Let me say that again. In this moment that you're listening to me right now, you are not 400 years backwards. You are living in this moment right now as I speak. And what you decide and determine in this moment will have a direct impact on your future, not 400 years ago. Let's read it on. It says, the ancestors did their part. They created us, but it is our turn to be the ancestors of the future. And then it goes on, it says, choosing within the matrix. When you said we still have a choice in this matrix system, that is the key. The construct, the system, the programming might not change overnight, but our interface with it can. Choice is the ultimate rebellion. Choosing peace, choosing to heal, choosing to build without waiting for permission. These are the acts of freedom. Meditation, focused attention, community healing, entrepreneurship, and education all reprogram how our inner matrix interacts with our outer one. And then this last part, it says, reframing the narrative, instead of we were slaves, the shift might be we are the descendants of those who survived the impossible. That's not denial, that is reclamation. It moves the brain's orientation from victimhood to victory and from reaction to creation. I thought that was quite powerful, and how they put that together. But that's so very true. So very true. Many of us, we are living right now, and I got one more thing I'm gonna read to you, but many of us are been programmed to still see ourselves as a descendant of slaves. Let me say that again. Many of us, many are still walking in the shadow of slaves, not people who made it through. Not the people who survived. We are still walking in the shadow of, I'm a descendant of slaves. ADOS, American descendant of slaves. I don't even know what that noise is. I'm hearing something. I don't know what that is. American descendant of slaves. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Instead of identifying with the fact that my auntie, my uncle, whoever, it'll be your great auntie or your great uncle or whatever, they made it through. Yeah, there was a part in our history that, yeah, unfortunately, there was some mess that happened. That's right. And we're not going to forget that. But who I am right now in 2025, I am not that. I didn't just walk off a cotton field. I didn't just walk off of being whipped and all of that. No, that was back then. That was their experience and they had moved on. But I am in this moment right now, right this second. I am in this moment, and the decisions that I make now will determine how I turn out in the future. The decisions I make right now, not then. You trying to be something now, but yet you still holding on to, but I'm a slave. That's why many of us struggle with feeling a sense of unworthiness. I don't know. See, that's when white people, white people, they always gonna have stuff. When I drive to their communities, they always all quiet and, they always got things together and, they be walking with their families and, I'll be saying some crazy stuff. Be spilling out our mouths like that. But really what we're saying when we say stuff like that is that we're not worthy of that. We're not worthy to have a peaceful house. We're not worthy to have a community that's peaceful. So as long as that shadow of unworthiness is still there, you just add it on, multiply that out by all these other folks who also feel this sense of unworthiness. And then what happens? You automatically settle for second best. And then when you settle for second best, what then happens? That's when your crime starts coming in. That's when all the other stuff starts coming in. Why? Because you settled for it. That's what you settled for. Instead of choosing this moment to say, no, I am not choosing that. I am worthy. I am deserving of a better life. I am deserving to have a peaceful community, a peaceful house. That is my right. That is what I'm declaring for myself now, today. That's what I'm declaring for myself. And if anybody in my ecosystem isn't on that same page, I'm going to try to encourage them. But if they ain't trying to get in this, all right, then I guess I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to keep on moving then. Because I am choosing today to write my future. Do you understand what I'm saying? Instead of just settling for what was done in the past. Well, in the hood, we always did. Okay, that's the hood. Stop bringing the hood with you. And stop watching things that reinforce stuff in the past. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm so tired of these movies that every time they come out, it's a Black family reunion movie, and it's the same. They play on the same stereotypes over and over again. The drunk uncle, the mother that's, she runs everything and all this other stuff. And we laugh at it. We make comedies off of this stuff. The so-and-so, the usual suspects and all that. It doesn't have to be that. You don't have being dysfunctional isn't funny anymore. It's got to stop being funny. It's got to stop being comical. It's got to stop being something that we get entertained off of. You understand what I'm saying? We have the ability to write our future in this present. Okay? All right, let me read for you this one last thing, and then I'm going to get out of here. But this is something that's in the book that we put together, the Breaking the Chains book. And I would encourage you to, if you don't take the class, at least get the book here because we do cover a lot. But I have a whole section in the back where there's something that I talk about here. Let me get to that. I'm going to open it up here. Give me just a moment. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Let me go here. Okay, this is it right here. Okay. All right, I'm going to open up this section here. It's just, it's short. But it ties in everything that we were just talking about here. Okay, let me get down here to the end. Okay, and this is going to be, actually, I clicked on the wrong thing. Here we go. There it is. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be all the way, I think the last page. Yeah, here we go. The last page right here. So let me close that out there. You don't need to see all that. Okay, let's get this up here. There we go. All right. So I did, right at the end of the class, I talked about this. All right. And this is tied to social media. I want you to take a look at this image here. Now you got a young lady here. You know, she's got her phone and she's just scrolling through her phone. And as you can see down this path, you see all these different portals, right? And all these different portals are just different worlds and stuff like that. This is exactly what happens when you're walking in social media. Every swipe that you make, you're literally, there's a part of, you are taking a part of it. And let me explain what that means and how this all ties in, okay? And yes, I wrote a lot of this. What a lot of the stuff that you hear, well, what I showed you on ChatGPT, that came from ChatGPT, right? But there's other things too. I put in a lot in there, and then I'll say, okay, I just gave you a lot. Can you verify if I'm going in the right direction? And if so, you know, make sure you can substantiate it with, you know, studies and all of that. You know, do not just repeat what I'm giving you, you know, and so I always do that. And this is a case where I did a whole lot of writing. And then I said, okay, what tweaks do I need to make? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I going off or whatever? And it helped me, you know, say, okay, well, no, you need to say it this way and that. And I was like, you know, I think you're right, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, so yeah. So anyway, let me read this to you. The psychology of scrolling, how social media shapes emotional energy. When we scroll through platforms like TikTok or Instagram, each post we encounter delivers more than just information. It carries emotion. Every tone of voice, facial expression, and word choice activates subtle responses in our own nervous system. Psychologists call this emotional contagion, the process through which emotions are transferred from one person to another, even through digital media. Language, imagery, and sound all transmit emotional valence, signals that the brain interprets as positive, negative, or threatening, even if we only watch a video for a few seconds. Let me read that again. Even if we only watch a video for a few seconds, our brain still registers that emotional signal, releasing corresponding neural chemicals such as dopamine, cortisol, or oxytocin. Social media platforms are designed to keep this cycle going. Imagine standing in a room filled with beautifully wrapped gifts, each one promising something new. You don't know what's inside until you open it. And that sense of anticipation keeps you moving from one box to the next. The same mechanism drives endless scrolling. Every swipe creates a burst of dopamine in the brain's reward chemical, feeding our curiosity and compelling us to see just one more. As we continue to scroll, our brains are rapidly shifting between emotional states. One video may evoke laughter, the next sadness, the next anger, jealousy, or fear. Each emotional exposure, however brief, activates a neural response. Over time, these small, repeated exposures accumulate, what neuroscientists call emotional load, forcing the brain to constantly regulate and to sort through conflicting emotions. So again, as you're scrolling, even if you just look at it for a little bit and you go to the next one, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one, you are picking up you're still picking up something. Your brain is picking this up. It's like, okay, it's taking notes on the first video you saw. You may only seen a little bit of it. It's like, okay, all right, so this man is screaming because he lost his job. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now this girl, she's fine. She looked good and all. Oh, wait a minute now. Okay, this person now, they just plumb crazy because they just crashed their car and they out there twerking. Okay, what? The next one is, okay, oh, look at the dog. He's so cute. Okay, the next one, oh, wait a minute. He crashed his Uber car. Okay, and your brain, even though you're swiping, as you're swiping, your brain is picking that up. It's like, okay, next. And so it's got all these Post-it notes, and it's like, okay, I don't know what the heck to do with this. And so by the time you are finished your session on TikTok, you feel tired. because your brain is trying to catch up. Okay, I don't even know what to do with all of this, right? Okay, so let's move on. Research shows that this kind of constant emotional switching can lead to cognitive fatigue and diminished emotional resilience. Studies published in Clinical Psychological Science in depression and anxiety have found strong correlations between extended social media use and higher rates of depression, anxiety, and sleep disruption. These effects are amplified by the brain's reward anticipation loop, which can mirror the patterns seen in addictive behaviors. In essence, what we absorb online is not neutral. Every video we consume shapes our emotional and neurochemical state, not because energy is transferring from one person to us in a literal sense, but because our brains are wired to resonate with the emotions we perceive. Over time, this accumulation of emotional signals can leave us overstimulated, drained, or even depressed, not from one negative post, but from thousands of micro interactions that the brain must continuously process. Understanding this doesn't mean we must reject social media altogether. It means approaching it consciously. Recognizing that what we choose to consume carries psychological weight. Every scroll is a small emotional exchange, and awareness is what allows us to remain centered, discerning, and grounded in our own energy. All right. So again, that's in our book, Breaking the Chains and all of that. Like I said, we cover quite a bit in that. So I would encourage you, if you haven't gotten your copy, make sure you get it. But yeah, because we cover quite a bit in that. And, we're going to continue to have these discussions on there. This is an exception. This evening, we're talking about the brain and all that. I usually do that over on our Samba Tree YouTube page, but I figured that I would do it on here tonight, just to change things up a little bit. But anyway, so I hope you guys got something out of this. Starting in the beginning of this video, we talked about this trend that is getting worse, where we're seeing more and more of our people who are just flipping out and just losing it. And you got more and more. I mean, October is shaping up to be a very bloody month, unfortunately, when it comes to Black Americans. It just is. You know what I mean? And, I'll give you an example of this whole playing on fear and looking in the past, going back to the young man who, Trevor Reed, when that story came out that he was found hanging on a college campus, what did the brains of most people do? It went all the way back in the past of Jim Crow era. And they said, oh, here it goes. Here we go again. This is what's happening. It's Jim Crow all over it again. It's the Klan and all of this other stuff. And so I'm sitting here in the present saying, okay, it probably wasn't that, but we'll stay open. It could have been, but let's give it a little bit of time and let's look at the facts. The facts come in and it shows that this young man actually self-deleted. I don't want to hear that. No. I cannot process that. I refuse to believe that. I can't believe that. Why? Because again, what did I say earlier in the video? Your brain will always go to the past, and then it will predict the future. It's not accepting the present. It's not accepting the present. So that's why when I'm on platforms like YouTube or whatever, it's very difficult. It's difficult for people to hear because I'm trying to give you the present, but you're dealing with numbers of people on platforms like this who they live in the past. You understand? And so they can't see, hey, there is a way out so that I can create a better future. You understand what I'm saying? So anyway, it's a lot today that I presented in this video. I really hope you got something out of it. This actually went a lot longer than I wanted to, but there we go. But anyway, there's a lot in here. I hope you guys got something in there. If, of course, you got any questions or anything like that, feel free. You can always leave comments or whatever. Always just, like I said, just keep respectful and all of that and all of that. And we'll have a great conversation. Okay. But other than that, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast. Listen, you guys take care. and we're going to continue this conversation. All right, take care, and I'll see you next time.